everybody. Welcome back to the lounge. Oh my God, it's been so long. Am I screaming at you? Your audio is probably going crazy. It's been like 3 months? I'm like, yeah, we take a little summer break, and then we had that retrograde, and we had October, which was crazy. We had 7 planets in retrograde. If you thought I was coming back then, you guys are crazy nuts. But oh my God, we're back with the energy. We're back with the lounge. We're back live. This is the lounge season 2.0. That means that, oh my God, this season is going to be full of guests, and we are getting into deep stuff. Transformation. We're talking about how to break those patterns, getting unstuck, manifesting, developing your intuition, all of it. And our guests this season are going to be amazing, especially tonight with our kickoff show. I have some very special people coming on. I just want to say hi to some of my lovely, lovely regulars. Lisa, welcome back. You're so excited. We're excited too. The lounge is back. Woo! Just in time for the fall weather and the winter where everybody's kind of cozying on in, right? Lori, we missed you too. I missed you guys, but I had to get my energy back up. Darlene, how you doing? Linda, good to see you. Linda, hi Linda. Maria, good to see you. The lounge is back. You are right. The lounge is back, and you are one of our regulars every Friday. Carol, good to see you. Mars, it's not about that. Awesome. Great. Good to see you too. Ani M, great to be back in the lounge. Hi, Tim. Good to see you. Wow. You guys are ready to go, rolling it out. I can't wait. And as you know, we have our lounge buddies. We have our special co-host tonight. And we have our lovely, lovely mystery guest, which isn't so mystery if you guys did some extensive research on him before the show. But just so you guys are aware, okay, got to do a couple announcements before I bring on our surprises for the evening. And let me just tell you, you have to stay till not only the middle, but the end of the show, because our guest is doing a contest. That's right. All of our lovely listeners have a chance to win something tonight that is amazing. But you don't get it in the beginning. I'm not going to just give you the treat and then you get to go away or watch it later. Nope. You got to be on tonight. Look at this. Woo! Already people are researching the energetic plumbing. Okay. We have Madeline Joy. I need the plumber. I need to purge. I need to move on. That's exactly where we're at, people. The 1111 portal. Moving through that portal. And let me tell you, this is no joke. Okay. This 1111 portal we did the other day. It's not about just the external stepping into 5D, 5 dimension, like we did a year ago. This is opening up the internal portal. All that stuff, all that junk, all that grief, all that sadness, all that stuck energy, all those patterns that we all dealt with in the pandemic because we had to reflect on ourselves and what was going on and what we really wanted and who we wanted to be and what we wanted to do. Yes, we got there here. We got there here. But did we get there here? Because that stuff keeps triggering. We got to attach and connect the heart and the head. But who can do that? No one other than the energetic plumber, intuitive energy healer, Scott Clover. And he's looking at me backstage. And I know he thinks I'm a nut. And that's all right. Because I am a nut. But, whatever. Oh, my goodness, everybody. Oh, my God. Blummy Blum. It's been forever, Blummy Blum. How you doing? Deb, the Lounge Live is back, and it's better than ever, season 2.0. Teresa, I need to move on, 1111 all the time. You guys are awesome tonight. I can't wait. But without further ado, and before we go into that, remember, people, tomorrow, no, what's tomorrow? 13th. The 15th is when I do my monthly energy forecast. Yes, that's right, the monthly energy forecast. If you're not on my email list, you won't get it, okay? It's not a live show. You're not going to be able to look for it, not going to be able to get it. You actually have to sign up for my newsletter, okay? So I'm going to put that in the link. If it's not in the video, I'm going to do that now. Woo! Let's see. All right. So if you guys are not, I'm putting it in the chat. If you're not getting my email newsletter, if you're not signed up, I go over every day of the month. You're looking to manifest. It's all about the timing. So if you put all your energy into doing stuff every day and it's the wrong timing, how are you going to manifest? So if you want to transform, you need this calendar. Get on my monthly newsletter list by getting on my email list. It's right here in my folio. Also, intuitive development online class for beginners, levels 1, 2, and 3. It used to be in school, and now it's online. So everybody worldwide is going to have it. If you want to get on that wait list, it's going to be coming out very soon. Go on that link. It has all the links you're going to need to get on the wait list, get my monthly energy forecast, and make sure you're getting the weeklies and signing up to subscribe to Facebook. I'm sorry, like on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my lovely, lovely co-host for tonight. His name is Mike. He's an intuitive technologist, and I am a techie, so I want to know what that's all about. And he was one of the first students in the original Knowledge for Living Intuitive Development Program in Marlton, New Jersey. In the conference room, we had attorneys, we had financial advisors, everybody else around, and then there was us, our intuitive development class, right then and there. Mike, what is going on? How are you?
Happy Friday night. Happy return to Lounge 2.0.
Yes. Mike, I'm so excited to see you. How many years has it been?
I think it's been about 12 or 13 years since we've seen each other.
I know, but you've seen me, so you feel like it hasn't been that long.
I'm a follower of the weekly forecasts and the monthly forecasts. And actually, you made a call out to something I did earlier. When the monthly forecasts come, I go to my Google Calendar and I add a separate one just to like see what the theme of the day is based on what you say.
So you know what, Mike, is exactly, you gave me an idea. You gave our students an idea. You gave all the people in Manifesting with Marissa of the class the idea. We have to get like a graphic calendar where it could be like red, green, yellow traffic light, every day of the month. Maybe you could design it.
Yeah. I'm not actually much of a coder. I think it's interesting that you mentioned Knowledge for Living as the title of your company where you teach the intuitive development classes, because I know the question has come up, what is an intuitive an intuitive technologist?
Yes.
And I guess we should start by just answering that, right?
Yeah, we really should, because I always like to know what these different gifts are about. But before we get to that question, look at what Blummy Blum has to say, Mike. I had practice readings done by your students in Marlton 2013. So Blummy Blum, do you remember Mike? He was there.
I think I was a class before that. That was a later class than me.
Oh, Blummy Blum didn't get a reading from you.
Did not get a reading from me.
But you know what? That's how long people are following. So that's a good sign.
There you go.
Christine is saying hello, Mike Mile, but I know she means hello, Mike. She's looking forward to this. Tim Petro, he's a fan. He's saying hi, Mike. How you doing? Regina, hi, Mike. I'm Michael Ruff from Texas. Oh my God.
Wow, what a warm and inviting crowd.
I know. And Blummy Blum says it was all female, so it wasn't you, Mike, unfortunately.
Well, to be honest, in most of the courses, it's very skewed toward the female demographic, and I was the only guy in that round.
Yes, you were.
And then we ended it with the Intuidate, like mega event around Valentine's Day. Remember that?
You were part of Intuidate. Oh my God.
I was part of Intuidate.
Intuidate is now a podcast. You could get it on Apple Podcasts. The whole season is up. We actually interviewed people from The Bachelor and everything. If you want to go and look at that, look at Intuidate. Wow. We're going to do this year, Mike, and I want you to be a part of it. We're going to do an Intuidate live workshop this month, and I want you to be part of this. I want you to be part of this workshop. What do you think?
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. You're putting me on the spot. I can't really say no at this point.
I know,
right?
You can't. You can say no later. It's fine. So you did the intuitive development workshop in person. Like, how did you bring intuition into your life, and what brought you to be the intuitive technologist? Can you tell us about this a little bit the last 12 years?
So first I want to say my impressions of when I went to your class way back when. It was in Marlton. It was in that corporate tech center. Yeah. And I remember it was so sophisticated. It was so much more polished than I expected. And I remember when we signed up, it was like, bring your pendulums, bring a tarot card. I was like, this is Harry Potter wizard school, I guess. Like, yeah. Should I bring a frog? Like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
And I thought it was structured really well. And it really gave a format for how to do things and how to personalize it and just go with what works quickly. And I think a lot of what you were doing was kind of scanning the room as people were testing out things and seeing how you could help people or fall more into their own. So yeah, we did that. It kind of reminded me of like Star Trek, how there was like carpeting and conference room chairs. Like this is like,
Yeah.
it felt very futuristic. So yeah, so I did the intuitive development course, and I was working in New York City. I'm actually in New York City now. You could probably hear some honking behind me. Lovely New York City sounds. And so I was in the corporate track, and trying to figure out what my next move was. And I had been pretty practiced and honed with developing more empathic skills and really building kind of a mind's eye construct, like just and trusting the clairs, like feeling things out a little more. And I didn't go directly into being professional or going into, let's say, leaning too much into the intuitive work in an everyday basis. What I really found was it was nice to be able to integrate it into my everyday life
Yeah.
and career wise. And I remember that was a moment in my career where I went from kind of just doing what other people told me to do to really thinking, well, what do I think? Where do I think this industry's heading? How do I follow the next path of innovation? And so a lot of that is through meditation, through exploration, kind of almost allowing uh, the recognizing of the patterns, which is a very difficult thing to describe how to do. You just have to do it and fumble and clarify and trust and keep going until you see what works and what doesn't. So to make the long story short, I've always been working in the technology field. I had some impulses, or let's say gut instincts, about where the industry was heading. And so I made sure to sort of navigate my career along those. Very helpful to be aware of people's, I guess you could see physical things like body movement, but also energetically to be able to tune into that in like an interview or in a meeting and have more of a sense of presence. I thought that was very helpful. And also, I think the idea of looking at possible potential paths and being able to close my eyes and see how something should work that doesn't exist yet. And it's fun. It's sort of a gift and a curse because it's really cool
Right.
to like see this stuff, but then you have to
Right.
say, then you have to talk and be a human again and be like, this is where it's going. Here's where we're moving to. Let's do this. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think a lot of it's about visualization, a lot of it's inspiration, seeing trends.
Yeah.
I can give an example of a really easy way that people could use sort of intuition or tuning into their bodies and use it for technology. Do you want to hear about that?
Absolutely. I want to hear about it. Go for it.
Oh, so let me just make sure you can hear my voice.
I can hear you.
So really easy thing, and it's relying on technology a lot. But if you're gonna have a house party or have people come over to your space and you want to set a mood or a tone, one easy thing is just having music in the background. Like you have
Mm.
music on right now. And that's a pretty normal process. There's practically no intuition needed. But if you want to really go into the sort of moods and the what you want to project in that moment through this media, you can think about how do I want people to feel when they're in that room and visualize the friends or the people that are going to come and sort of what's the beat of the music, and then you can start putting your playlist together, thinking of that moment and seeing, does this connect to that or does it not connect to that? And then you don't have to listen to every song. You can just start going very quickly and then let the Spotify, Apple algorithms make the rest of your playlist. And that's how you can be intuitive, tuning into a future moment and relying on technology.
Oh my God, Mike. I love how you put it all together. And what's really awesome about intuitive development, like a lot of the people, a lot of the really, really amazing talent that has come through the classes, come through the school. I've seen stuff that I didn't think I would ever see. Different types of gifts that just like came out of nowhere. People had like stuff shooting up their arms and, they had like trance things happening. I was like, oh my God, there's so many gifts that are out there. And I've seen so much talent, and what's great about it is that most of the people that graduated still do this, but they have like they're like a regular Joe or regular Jane. They have regular jobs. They're not professional like psychics or mediums, but they've applied it to their life. They've applied it to their business decisions. They've applied it to their hiring decisions. They've applied it to their relationship choices, or, just learning about self-trust and learning how to really take that, what I call that AM radio, and kind of like tuning it right in
Yeah,
and holding it.
exactly.
Yeah. So we're gonna take that intuitive development course that you took. We're gonna take it up a level, because what I have found over the years is that people are playing out many cycles, and we're gonna get into our guest. He's gonna come in and talk about that. but people are playing out cycles and patterns. So for a while, people are like, oh, predict when's the next guy coming into my life? You know what I mean? It's all about love. It's always about love. People could talk to somebody on the other side, or they could ask a career question. But at the end, they're like, well, can you just answer this love question for me? You know, everybody wants to know about their relationships. And what I found is that people be like, oh, I just broke up with somebody. Can you tell me when the next guy or girl is coming in? I'm like, oh yeah, 2020, he's gonna have red hair and they're gonna have patent leather shoes, but come from Brick, New Jersey, and they're gonna like have a California surfer look, and then they'll come back like 3 months later, be like, oh my God, Marissa, like it actually happened. But then a year later, they're coming back and they're in the same pattern. They broke up with that one, now they're looking for the next one. So I'm like, wait a second, I am foreseeing patterns here. I'm foreseeing patterns of people that are playing out the same patterns in their relationships, their jobs, their careers. How do I help these people? What's going on? Because then I realized, to tune into the present moment, I started seeing roadmaps, and I started seeing that people could take different paths depending on how they do at breaking those patterns that are keeping them at that lower level energetic frequency. So most intuitive people, like you and I talked about before we came on the show, they are sensitive beings. They're highly sensitive souls who normally went through a lot of crap in their early childhood or in their adult lives. They had a lot of, subtle or very major trauma, like dysfunctional family dynamics, family of origin issues, maybe a divorced family, maybe an alcoholic family, whatever it was. But they learned how to disconnect from the body. They learned how to just be disconnected. And so their attunement became their talent, their protectiveness of their energy, or having to filter out other people's energy, or having to monitor other people's energy, took up all their physical energy. So they just kind of checked out, and they became talented in psychic and mediumship and channeling. But what happened is building that intuition, they're going to keep going higher into that spaced out place. And none of their life lessons or life purposes will be met in the physical level. So what I did with this intuitive class is there's 3 elements, because you can't manifest unless you have that intuition, that source energy connection. And you also can't have that unless you are regulated in your biological nervous system. So that anxiety, that depression, that disconnection from our body, that being present. So many of the most talented psychic mediums I know, their lives are a mess because they never came home. They never came home. They're just so used to being disconnected. That's where they feel safe. And that's where most intuitive people that have a natural gift feel safe. So I started doing the transformational process myself. And I realized that coming home to the physical body is where it's at. And then our intuition could even be greater. And we're coming from a place of a solid foundation. So this intuitive development class is going to combine that regulation, that grounding, that balancing, plus the intuitive development, plus the manifesting. So it's kind of like a triangle. And you got in touch with me before, and you're like, hey, I want to introduce you to a very close person in your life, Scott Clover, who you're like,
Yes.
look, this guy is amazing. He's like the nuclear weapon. He's like, you want to come in and you want to break those patterns fast, and you don't want to wait 5 or 6 years to kind of go through therapy or whatever. This guy is going to plumb it out. And I'm like, I've never heard of this before. Like, this guy's going to help you along. He's going to help you go into the body, and somatically, which is another term for working within the body, help you to release some of that gunk that's internal in your meridians, how your energy's flowing, those patterns. So,
yeah.
And so we connected, you introduced me to him, and he was like, yeah, I feel more comfortable coming on your show if I actually gave you a sample of my work so that you can actually talk about the experience. I'm like, okay, it's going to be another reading. I'll sit in the morning. I'll talk, listen to what he has to say informationally. I'll go about my day. Well, this
and
guy,
I would imagine you get readings often, or you've been exposed to a lot of people and modalities.
I have, and I stopped doing that years ago because I was getting pissed off. Because I am like all about technique. I'm all about evidence. I'm all about, helping people, not being part of, that ego-based, oh, it's just a validation. Like, I want to help people transform. And I'm like, if you're saying you're a medium, then you better be giving evidence. You better be talking about with that person's personality, names, dates, how they passed. And if you're going and saying, oh, a grandma's coming through and she bakes cookies, like, come on, you know what I mean? So like, I've had readings and I would just walk out feeling so disconnected and so disappointed that I was like, I'm not doing readings anymore, except for the people that I've trained. Those are the people I'll go to if I need intuitive insight. You know what I mean? Because I know they trained ethically. We train in morals, ethics. Like, you have to know how to have discernment, all those types of things. It's so important. But I didn't expect what happened with Scott to happen. I had to cancel my appointments the rest of the day. This guy is really amazing. He's an intuitive energy healer, and you know a lot about Scott. You're very close to him in your life. Do you want to tell us a little bit about, like, because you know his work? Do you want to describe it a little bit before we bring him on to kind of talk to our audience?
Yes. So Scott Clover, intuitive energy healer. The nickname energetic plumber just sort of happened, and it works. So that's really the sort of common way to refer to what he does if you want to get a visualization, but maybe not too vivid. His work is really grounded in somatic, which is body energy feeling. So maybe a branch of clairsentience and visualizing where the energy goes. And I know he's studied under several intuitive practitioners, and he might have actually heard some tips that I had picked up from you when he was in his long training process. And he's actually been doing this professionally for, I think, about 7 years now, 6 or 7 years. And it's picked up a lot in recent years. It's really connected about associated with body connections, the flow, and also I would say a lot of his talents are in the immediate discernment of where to go, what to talk about, what to feel, what's happening to the person on the other side remotely. And I think that's all I want to say before he gets on, because he could probably also describe what he does too, or give some examples. But I think the energetic plumber term came about because a lot of it was about feeling the body, draining, and making sure that the movement of energy is flowing the way that it should.
Yeah. And when I get a session done, I'm used to relaxing and receiving whatever somebody has to give me. I go into receiving mode. And this was work, man. This was actual work. I had to do work. I mean, he had me visualize going into my body and actually seeing these things. And he'd be like, okay, like, move a little over to the left. Like, what do you see? And as soon as I started scanning in my inner eye to a place, he's like, yep, I see it. Like, he actually followed me psychically. And he's like, you just moved it to the right a little bit. I said the left. I'm like, whoa, like, he could actually sense that. And when I felt like I would have a release, he would feel it. So it's interesting because I would say that this was a very intimate experience. Like, I feel like there was an intimacy in that I had to share and open up with him. And I'm not somebody that does that well. I don't trust people. And you have to be able to be open and willing you have to be in a place in your healing journey where you've had it and you're ready to let the plumber come in. And I'm saying that like in a funny, because it really is the best way to say it, because he takes stuff. I mean, he doesn't do it. He actually takes you through a process where you're doing it. But by the end of it, you're like, you have to do the work. And it was really amazing. And I have to bring him on. And before I bring him on, I just want to talk a little bit about his bio. He's an intuitive. Scott Clover is an intuitive, New York City-based intuitive energy healer who works on the mantra of heal what holds you back and feel better in your body. His clients call him the energetic plumber. Scott Clover helps people connect to their own energy so they can learn to heal themselves. Because we all want to like other people to heal us, right? Or make us feel better. But it is about that. He's a certified practitioner of vocalizing, which I haven't heard about before, but I experienced it, and he could talk a little about that. It's a somatic-based technology for changing your body's energetic patterns for areas such as trauma relief, anxiety, and positive and creative uses. And once you do that, your intuition will completely have so much more clarity. So we're going to talk today with Scott about somatic energy healing, resolving family patterns, generational patterns, self-acceptance, all about that. And he's got a special surprise for our audience today, and you don't want to miss it. Christine is already saying he could dissect me, like you're saying with an intuitive frog.
Wow.
Christine, you could be our intuitive frog. All right. Without further ado, lounge. Let's welcome Scott Clover. Hi, Scott. How are you?
Hi, you two. Nice to see you.
Hello.
Sorry we had to make you wait back there a little bit, but Mike had a lot to, tell us.
Oh, yeah. I didn't mind waiting and hearing that. Yeah.
So Scott, did we do you justice with explaining how you work, or do you want to kind of break it down a little simpler for our audience?
Sure. Maybe not simpler, but just more from my perspective is I see and sense energy patterns. I see and sense energy patterns. Yeah, it's very simple. I see and sense energy patterns in your body, in your field, in your genetic background, or your family patterns, or also your soul pattern, past lives, etc. And it's really all under the guise of healing. So if we decide to work together, my intention remains pretty much the same throughout my work day, is to be open enough to help you visualize a healing pattern or visualize a route for you to heal or purge, transform, transmute, expunge. I use a lot of synonyms, a lot of thesaurus words for purging, essentially.
Yeah.
That's where that energetic plumber comes from.
Well, I have to ask you, Scott, when we talked, I said, you know what, you put me out the whole day. I had to cancel all my appointments. And you said, that's the first time when that happened to me, when you were talking about yourself, you said that you had the same experience. So like before you did your own transformational work, like what was your life like, and what kind of led you to this part of your journey where you're like, I want to help people to release these blockages? Like, where was your transformation in your life?
So my transformation started when I was around 11 or 12, and I realized my intuition was quite prolific for someone that age. And it was starting to alienate me amongst my peers and in my middle school. And I could sense that whatever I was picking up was making me no longer going to be popular. And, when you're 11 or 12, you really don't want to be disassociated from your community.
Or a wise ass.
And I was a wise ass. And so I just decided that whatever that was, I'm going to shut it down. And I did shut it down up until way later in life when I was on vacation with someone and they just simply asked me, what kind of psychic are you? And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And I really subconsciously and deep down I knew, but I had, put it in Pandora's box at the bottom of the ocean, and every once in a while it would burp open, but I really wanted to confine it because I didn't feel comfortable. And then once that happened, I was asked, what kind of psychic are you? I finally had to come clean. And once you ring that bell, you can't unring it.
That's right.
So once I sort of admitted to myself that that's what I was, I spent years sort of honing my craft and toning down my intuitive prowess because it was too big. And I wouldn't need to, living in Manhattan, sunburn my brain just by going on the subway. And once I started training with other people, I realized my skill set's really geared towards helping other people heal. And that's because I had a somatic background, in that when I was looking for help for myself in my 30s, I found a holistic psychologist here in New York, and he asked me how my body felt.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. I rubbed back and I said, I don't freaking know how my body, why are you asking me that question? And I got real defensive.
Yeah.
And that was it right there. How does your body feel? That's the question that changed my life.
And how did your body feel when he asked you?
Couldn't tell because I was disconnected from it.
Yeah. So what did you find, that it was really tight and you were constantly like contracting and not breathing, and like, because that's how I felt before I went into my body work.
Well, I think everyone, depending on your history, your biography, it changes your biology, as they say. So some people contract, some people are too open. Some people are so empathic, they have no boundaries. Some people are too empathic that they create boundaries and they sequester themselves. So there's no cookie cutter what happens to an empathic child. We all are our own mandalas of energy. And once we shine an intuitive light through our own mandalas, then we create that pattern, right?
And
Can
so
I jump in here?
Oh yeah, go for it, Mike.
So I wanted to point out something that both of you have said to me in different conversations, but a lot of it about intuitive development is really about grounding. And Scott, you use an analogy with a satellite dish. And Marisa, you talk a lot about the importance of grounding and staying connected to the body. And I think you two both share a similarity with the philosophy there, which I tend to agree with. Scott, do you want to articulate that?
Well, embodiment. Yeah, embodiment is really a cornerstone of my practice. Whether it's people trying to become more intuitive, I'm going to say embodiment. Whether it's people who have been through a traumatic event, we're going to start with the body. And so that's where my intuitive skill set has been honed over the years, is I see and sense the patterns inside the body or the physical location where the quantum energy has been coagulated.
It's amazing. I mean, he really sees it. I mean, he goes into deep generational patterns that sometimes you're not even conscious of. And he went into like certain areas of my body, which were like, he's like, yeah, what's going on with the left side and the back by your shoulder blade? I'm like, oh my God, I need that area massaged all the time because I feel this knot that's there. It's been there. And I'm like, why does it feel like cement? And he went right to it. He's like, okay, well, let's go to it. Let's, and then he's like, that's grief. I'm like, wow. And then he's like, and it's so small because it's all of your grief just like put into this little, I'm like, that's really concentrated. He's like, so let's move it on out. So then I started visualizing it moving out. He's like, oh, good job. Good job. I'm like, what? How does he, what are you doing? So it was kind of amazing because he's with you. He's with you in that moment. And like I said, like intimacy isn't my strong point. Like I don't trust easily. And I feel like the session with Scott, it wasn't like somebody just giving me information and receiving it to where it was like an objective bystander of information where there's like kind of this glass wall. You're in it, Scott. You were in it with me, as I took this journey.
And I'm not in it from your adult perspective. I'm in it from the point or the moment where the contraction happened.
Right.
So a lot of times people want to solve their childhood dilemmas or their childhood defense mechanisms that have been locked into their energetic systems. They want to solve it from their 43-year-old brain. Well, that young girl was confined, or that young girl was put upon at age 7, or that little kid, that little boy was teased or bullied at age 9. So your psyche is trying to solve this from a chess or from a checkers perspective. Whereas the woman I speak to or the man I speak to as an adult are playing chess because there's so much more information that you can rely on as an adult. That's not going to solve the mindset of a 7-year-old thought pattern that hasn't been dealt with or observed.
Yeah.
And so I help people observe the pattern for what it is. I call it accepting existing realities. And that term or that phrase or that ideology exists in several different religions and practices in the world, but accepting the existing reality of, yes, this happened, but not what is the story that you've told your inner self 10,000 times in the last 35 years about the abuse you suffered or the trauma you experienced at age 6. Let's go back to how the child felt at that moment and when that contraction hit. And a lot of people I've noticed over this last year specifically is they almost put like a Harry Potter invisibility cloak over that part of their childhood psyche. And even when they're looking for it, they can't see it because it would be too hard or too difficult or too painful to see for what it really is. Well, that's when I come in because I acknowledge it and I approach the energy almost like a feral animal. And then the person I'm working with sees it for what it is, and then it allows to accept it. And then that childhood perspective or that childhood mindset actually matures in the middle of the session. So that 7-year-old mindset girl becomes 9 and 10 and 11, and she gets a new outfit and she washes the Cinderella dirt off her face. And then she, matures. And that's happening in real time during the session that we're working on. And that's an example of the work.
Yeah. I have to ask you a question because a lot of my clients, when I point out to them, and I'm this informational channel, I'm like, I just illuminate the light on the information. I'm not the one to take it out. I'm not the one. So I say, okay, you're ready to go see Scott because this is the problem. You're in line. But a lot of people that come and see me, they're like, well, I've already let that go, or I've read these books. So can you please like kind of illuminate to our audience that intellectualizing or understanding your trauma or understanding what happened to you, even though you let it go in your mind, doesn't mean it's gone from the body, and it doesn't mean those patterns haven't stopped. So can you talk about how intellectualizing it or understanding it intellectually is not going to solve or break the pattern?
I guess the quick metaphor I could use for what you just referred to is you go and you brush your teeth every day, and then 6 months you go to the dentist and they scrape the plaque off.
Right.
Well, you're brushing your teeth every day, and yet
that's
plaque
so gross,
still is on your teeth. So I'm the one that shows you where the plaque is. You're doing the work by brushing your teeth and having maybe some maintenance,
Ew.
but there's still going to be plaque. And so you come to somebody like me who can see and be very specific on how to remove or transmute the plaque into something that serves you, as opposed to something that can be calcified or like energetic barnacles. I hear that term a lot. Oh, there's energetic barnacles on your third chakra, for example.
Marisa,
So
can you change Scott's name to the energetic dentist, please?
Energetic dentist. Yeah.
Well, that was, once again, that's the metaphor to help you understand it. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll receive energy patterns, and then I have to use my imagination, because I work a lot in the childhood imagination, which is where these concepts actually get started and get locked in the body. And so I use metaphor and imagination with the client or with you during the session, so you can understand it as easily as possible. So we're not parlaying the whole time. This is definitely not talk therapy, what we're doing.
No, it's definitely not. It's not like an intuitive session where you're telling me about my future.
Correct. No, definitely not. And I chose that when I first came into my intuitive abilities years ago. I knew my archetypal pattern was to understand and help people understand their own healing abilities and potentials. So I consider myself the librarian, and I will lead you out of the 60,000 books in the library to the right book, to the right shelf. I'll even open the page. You're going to read the book. I'm not going to read the book to you. You're going to do the work, but I will get you as far. If you meet me, 30% of the way, I'll go that extra 70% to meet you. But you're going to show up, and if you're going to show up, we're going to do the work.
Oh yeah, he's very empathetic, I would tell you.
Yeah,
but
and I'm fun too.
You're fun, and the stuff that came out though that we plumbed out was gross. I was like, ew, like what's coming out here? Like this is, and you're like, keep coughing. I'm like, I don't want to keep coughing. This is disgusting. Like, what is coming out? And I'm like, I'm not doing this. And then
so you're like, not specific to you, but in a lot of cases that would be like your grandmother's grief.
Wow.
This wasn't specific to your case, but what are you letting go of? You're letting grief that's been stuck in your family pattern. You're let going fear of your great grandmother who was raped as a teenager.
Oh my
then
God.
that shame pattern just got felt from one female to the next, and all of a sudden you're dealing with an energy you don't even understand. And you're dealing with a dent or a weakness in your energy field that wasn't created by you, that you really had nothing to do with. But yet it existed in your family pattern, and it gets diluted through each generational line, which is why it's hard for some people to actually pinpoint, because it's been, diluted from the great-grandmother to the grandmother to the mother to the daughter.
Scott, it's so deep. And once we went through this pandemic, it's like, before that, people were like, oh, I'm having anxiety. I want a psychic reading. I want you to tell me everything's going to be okay. I want that relief. But we need more than that right now. We need more than that to transform.
Well, you need to observe. Yeah, you need to observe what's going on with you. And that's why I call it accepting the existing reality. If you accept what's going on with you, then you can find an easier solution. Wanting to be different than the state that you're in is only going to get you that far. And it's going to keep you either where you're at or make you go even lower. So
look at Deb. What did I pass to my kids? She said. Oh my
what
God.
did you get past, Deb? That's more the question.
Right.
Yeah, and how do you break the pattern?
Yeah, and how does that pattern get either dissolved or alleviated through the family line? Because a lot of times, if the mother does the work, then it helps heal the grandmother and the daughter. Right? It goes back. It goes through the family line both ways.
Exactly, and I think that people. It's just like, well, this is how I grew up, so this is how I'm going to continue. And it's like somebody has to break the cycle. Like somebody has to do it.
And for women, it's a double-edged sword almost, because you have to deal with societal judgments even more than men do. From such a young age, women are sexualized, or young girls are sexualized at such a young age that you have to protect yourself, right?
Right.
And then you become sexual beings in your teenage years or your early 20s. And then, you've been taught for how many centuries that sex is done upon you. Where's your voice when it comes to your fifth and second chakras?
Yeah.
Right. So we're just now in this moment in our timeline that women are reclaiming a voice. And so that second and fifth chakra bond is actually being somewhat self-expressed for the first time in millennia, if not ever.
Yeah, Deb is saying, how do we dissolve it? I have 4 daughters. And Blummy Blum is like, can the daughter
Okay, so
do the work?
let me there's a lot of stuff coming up for the mothers and the parents, and I have several clients who have young children or empty nesters.
Okay.
And the one thing I can say for the people who have young children is don't lie to your kids, and healthy parents make healthy children. What your
But
children want.
I mean, with us parents that have the triggers like me, like who have these things come up, it's like we're not perfect. And if we just
Right.
let our kids know we're not perfect.
Do the work. If you're doing the work, they're going to know that you're advocating for yourself.
Instead of just pretending you're perfect.
Correct.
I'm not.
If you advocate for them without advocating for yourself, they're going to want to advocate for you. And now you're both sort of depleted.
Right.
So if they see you at least showing up and trying to do the work, then they're not going to try to help you, which is what the natural instinct is for a lot of us empathic children, was how did we try to take our parents' pain away? Well, all we ended up doing was, what happens when you light one candle off another candle? You have 2 candle flames. The child's impetus is, oh, my mother's in pain or my father's in pain. I'm going to go and I'm going to take that heat, take that flame away so my mom and dad can be happy and then I can be happy. Right. But all you're doing is mimicking, or you're mimicking their vibrational pattern. So one candle, you can light the other one off, but you don't extinguish the mother's candle or pain. So that's how energetic patterns get passed on from one parent to the child, to the next generation.
So what if that child isn't able to take away that parent's pain? And that's all they want is for the parent to be happy. What happens then somatically to the child?
I would say they bear the brunt. They're trying to do work subconsciously in their own patterns that is actually like an adoptive pattern. So when I sense it in people, we sort of understand that vibration or that wavelength, and we unweave it or we dissolve it out of their field. And it can become quite palpable. I mean, I've worked with people and I said, can you feel your grandmother's fear in your body? And they're like, oh my God, I can actually feel my grandmother's fear in my body. Well, if you can feel it, then you can counteract it.
So I know that I can explain what a session with you is like.
Go for it.
It's different than anything that I've ever experienced. And when you sit with Scott, it's like you're thinking you're sitting for this intuitive healing that's going to feel good, right? and it's like the guy goes right to it. He goes right to these areas in your body, and he has these amazing analogies. And he's like, do you know what a black and white cookie is? Well, imagine that in this area. And then he'll just give you these analogies and these metaphors, and you're like, oh my God, that's like a deep thing in my life that I don't think I've ever been able to actually express to somebody, but I know I felt it, but I don't know how to I wouldn't know how to even tell somebody that I felt this way or that my body feels this way. And he gets like right into it. And when you first sit with him, he asks you like a series of random questions. And I'm like, why is he asking me these questions? Like, is he looking this up? Like, what is this? And he's like, no, like basically behind the scenes, like I'm picking up where your body is like pinging. Like, I'm going to ask you about your past, maybe your family history, your schooling, whatever. And then he picks up like, oh, that's the vibration here. She's vibing to that, or that's firing. And then he goes right into the body, and you're just like, wow, this is intense, like really intense. But you feel stuff moving. And by the end of it, for my back always is like very tight. Like very tight. Sometimes it feels like my shoulders cement, like all the stuff. I felt like there was a portal, like an actual portal opening, where I felt the back of my body being open and clear for like the first time in my life. And it felt dangerous. It felt vulnerable. It felt like, oh my God, how am I going to protect myself? Like, how am I going to feel like I'm like, everything's open? It was terrifying, but beautiful at the same time. And I was like, wow, is this what you experienced? And then it almost felt like that movie Up, where the balloons are like on top of the house. I felt like I had helium balloons up in the sky, and I was like just floating. Like that's how light I was. Like I was just floating up. And I'm like, Scott, am I like floating away? Like what's going on here? And it was, he just opens up the energy, but it's almost like your wounds become a friend, after you're used to living with them, you're used to being they're part of them. And like, when you have to let them go, there is grief. attached to that.
Very well said. Correct.
You know?
We experience grief on things, patterns we purge because they've been with us so long. Just because they're familiar, you need to grieve a familiar pattern, whether it serves you or not. That ex-boyfriend, that ex-girlfriend, that friend from high school that was a narcissist that took advantage of you, whatever it is, you're still going to have to grieve purging negative things as well. If not, a void gets created, and then your body searches for something that resembles that pattern, and people can fall back into a pattern that they thought was healed.
Right. Like, so people will be like, oh, you know, they're married 3 times or whatever. And they're like, oh, I already, like, I have no feelings for my first husband, or I have no feelings to, that was a horrible, traumatic
experience. And then we do a session together, and it turns out it was their college boyfriend that broke their heart. And it wasn't even their first husband. It was the pattern that started in high school or college before that first marriage even got concluded, that they didn't feel worthy enough. And so that's why they're not keeping a relationship.
Right.
So
and
those energetic schisms happen to us Go ahead.
I'm noticing there's this pattern where a lot of it is situational, things that have happened to you, usually bad situations. But there's also this common theme of society, or like the imprint of expectations. And it sounds like the people who are the most successful are the ones who don't mind sort of making a new path, or deciding that they're going to do what works for them regardless of what society expects.
Exactly.
Yes, but I think a lot of times when they find someone like me, because I'm word of mouth, and so people find me when they're ready, or people find me when they need me. Right, because I'm so specialized at what I do, a lot of people aren't ready, or a lot of people come and see me once, and they just can't handle how their system would have to re-regulate. And so they call me months later or a year later, and they say, okay, now I'm ready. And some people come at me with both barrels and say, okay, let's work together, for the next 6 months, once a week. I want this pattern out of my life. I've been living with it for 40 years or something. And I have clients in my early 20s that are dealing with stuff from their childhood. And I have clients into their 70s that are doing amazing work, healing traumas that have happened to them before they were 10. And it's generally a lot to do. Oh, you asked me about the questions is there some music in the background or something?
Yeah, I have like a little, is it bothering you? I'm sorry. Let me.
That's okay. You asked me about those random questions, which are in no way random, that I ask at the beginning.
Yeah.
And what I'm doing is I'm asking questions that put you back in the mindset of potentially where you have pitfalls, where your potholes are. And so when I ask the question, I'm reading your energy field. And you kept saying, I'm feeling it. And generally that's quite dangerous for people and new intuitives. They feel it in their bodies. But over time, if you feel your client's energy in your body over years, your body's gonna start taking its toll on you.
Right.
So I really advocate people, if I'm training them or if they are interested in intuitive work, to try and help themselves by creating a hologram of the client. So I read your energy in a hologram more so than I prefer to feel it in my body, because that way I'm disassociating it and I'm not filtering it through my own story.
Right.
If I see your body as a hologram, part of it lights up.
A whiteboard or a dry erase board. I don't like the hologram analogy for me, but I like the idea of it being something out there to look at instead of taking it all on. And Marissa, I remember you've said very similar things in the past when you're doing the training.
About the hologram?
Just about not wearing all the energy when you're doing readings and stuff. Right. How to distance yourself, like create a healthy balance between absorbing the knowledge without taking on too much.
Exactly. Like for me, that was easy because I wasn't in my body. So I wasn't so much of an empathic feeler because I was like so closed off to like, even though I was always fending off energy. Like it was like that laser light show that you go and you try to get under the lasers, or you're like, that was like my life. So it was like, I'm cool with being objective. Like, it's like doctors who can't like kind of connect, but that's good when you're a medium because you don't want to start like bawling, crying every time like you connect to somebody on the other side. You have to be that messenger. But, so that was good for me in my job, and it made me a really good objective medium and channel and informational channel. And I wasn't taking on people's stuff, but I used to do energy work. I used to do hands-on energy work when I started, and I was like, oh my God, I can't handle this. But then there was a point in time where, like, after doing this 25 years, and yes, I have been doing this 25 years professionally, like there was a time my body couldn't handle it anymore, you know, but also it was like, wait a second, I need to have a life here on the earth plane. Like I need to like fulfill, I thought my purpose was my job. I thought my purpose was healing people, helping others, but really like there was no like self-love, and there was no like purpose of being present in life, or present with my experiences, or present with other people, or feeling joy, because I felt nothing. It was like, I'm just like, I'm really good at giving information and giving evidence, but I had no connection to myself. And I needed to come home to myself because I kept playing out patterns. And I was like, and finally, when I got to Scott, which was so random, it was through you, Mike. Like when I was in this crazy transformational time, and I was like, oh my God, I've been to everyone and I'm still having these triggers coming up in somatically in my body. And like, he's right. Like when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And then Scott, you're like, I had no idea that this is what I was going into. You know,
Right.
I had
Most
no
people
idea.
can't. I have a hard time explaining each person's experience because it's so individualized. I'm picking up exactly on what's in your pattern.
Yeah.
And so each client session is different, obviously. But one thing I wanted to point out from what you were pointing out is one of the intake questions I ask is, where do you go to high school? And you questioned me. I said, do you have any questions after we talked for over an hour? And your one question was, yeah, why did you ask me where I went to high school?
It's like, I was like, did you know like my high school? Did you know like where I went? Like, are you like familiar with like the mascot? Like what
exactly.
is that? Like,
and so what I'm doing is actually I'm reading your energetic system and to see how your body reacts to thinking about high school. Because for a lot of people, especially women, that's where the judgment versus joy debate gets lost. And they start picking up on other people's judgments because, you know, young girls are cruel to each other. Boys are tease girls, girls tease girls, girls
and
are.
Now there's Instagram.
And now there's Instagram for us to feel bad about ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
So that really comes to pass from the ages of like 13 to 18 is that you really feel judged and you judge. And when you're doing that, judge and joy can't exist in the same moment.
That's true.
So everybody wants to find their joy. Well, I say, let's go back to where the judgment started. Purge some of that judgment that you feel for yourself and some of the judgment energy that you gave away to others to judge you. I call it your binoculars. A lot of us in our teenage years give our binoculars, how we see the world, away to the group around us. And then we use those binoculars to perceive ourselves. Once again, defeating joy.
Yeah.
Excavating joy from the situation. So if you reduce the judgment and the areas in which the time frame of your psyche, that judgment became important, which it no longer is, because we judge a lot less of ourselves in our 50s, 60s, and 70s than we do in our teenage years, right? So
yeah, you just don't give a shit anymore.
You just don't give a shit anymore.
That's right.
A la joy now starts to encroach or move in. So
sorry, I'm spiritual and I said that word.
Please, I help people expedite that or see that they've been, pushing judgment on themselves and that way pushing joy out just by default.
But I didn't even realize I was disconnected. That's the thing. I'm like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm in front of 500-600 people at a show. I'm on radio, on television, like all this stuff that I thought, oh, this is where it's at. This is what I've been working toward my whole life. And like, I'm finally made it. You know what I mean?
But you were connecting for them. You weren't connecting for you.
Exactly. And
that's the difference.
It's a very depressing moment when you think where it's at becomes, oh, it's not where it's at. This isn't it. Oh, crap.
Right.
What is it? If it's not this, and this is what I thought it was, this is what I busted my ass for all this time. And you then crash and you're like down. You're like, oh my God, this is just as lonely inside. Well,
it's also an opportunity for you to realize if you serve yourself, then you can serve others because you unfortunately depleted yourself by putting others first and yourself not in the equation.
Right.
When we learn to serve ourselves and then we use that energy that we've self-served to serve others, then our lives just become rosier and easier. We talked about grace and ease. Grace and ease is approachable if you take judgment out of it.
That's true. But you don't even realize, I think I didn't even realize I was self-judging.
Most of us don't. No, correct. Most of us don't
realize that. But, there's so much. I mean, I could go on and like this, we're already at like time, you know what I mean? But like, if you guys have any questions, about for Scott or for me or for Mike, please feel free as I talk about Scott and how to get in touch with him. And what I promised you guys at the beginning of the show, which I think is really freaking cool. If you stuck with us this long, you guys are going to have the opportunity to win something awesome. Right, Mike? I know you're excited. So,
I'm very excited.
All right. So,
well, I wanted to mention also, we could read some comments too, but Scott does break down a lot of this process in his podcast. And I would mention that in season 2, he ends up singing a little bit in a lot of the episodes, which is kind of funny. Like, yeah, like he's singing songs and making analogies and stuff. So it's kind of fun. I would give this podcast a listen. It's on Spotify or Apple, or you can go on his website and find the right links to that too.
Yes, and I have a banner for that as well. We'll put that up there. So let's just start with the simplicity of it. Visit Scott Clover.
Yeah.
4-leaf clover, Scott. ScottClover.com.
Very lucky.
Session. Remember, Mike is the intuitive technologist. If you have technology that needs to be looked at, if you need audio equalized, if you want intuition in addition to it, Mike's the guy.
Well, I would say Mike is more about how intuition and technology can merge in the future and serve us, as opposed to taking our life force away from us, which is where
I'm not an IT guy. I don't want to fix anyone's stuff.
Yeah, he's not a computer repair person. He sees the future and the potential that technology can serve us and our intuition, as opposed to distancing ourselves from our bodies. He wants to have technology serve ourselves, our moods, and our somatic bodies, as opposed to taking us away from ourselves. That's where he did
that so simply and so amazing. Thank you. And now I understand what that means.
Yeah.
All right. Follow Scott on the IG. Scott Clover.
Oh, yeah. I'm not so prolific on the Instagram, but it is scottclover.energyhealer. I do, as I said, talk about a lot of this stuff on my podcast, the Intuitive Energy Podcast.
Here it is.
So, yeah. And season 3 is soon to come out. But season 1 and 2 were very well received. There's one on there that I like, that I think a lot of your empathic listeners will like. It's called Mind Your Own Energy. And I think it's the end of season 1. And it's really just saying, hey, if I mind my own energy, then I'll be able to relate to people better than trying to mind their energy first and then me associating through what I'm judging their energy to be. Does that make sense?
I just had something funny come to me.
Please.
The energetic miner, like the coal miner. Like you go in and you mine. You actually mine.
You actually mine. I map where you need to get your pickaxe to work at. I'm not the miner. You do the work.
How about the cartographer?
Yeah, cartographer. Yeah.
Because I had a piece of coal. Remember, I'm like, I have a piece of coal. Like, let's blast it out. But you went into the mine and saw it.
Yeah.
So you actually went in the cart in the mine, like Minecraft. Okay.
Yep.
So, oh wait, this is a surprise.
Yeah.
Okay.
I see it.
It's not much of a surprise, but
go ahead, Scott.
You have a faithful following I know this from Michael. So I like to tithe and let people experience my work. So if somebody wants to make a comment under the comments here within the next week, so what is today, Friday, come next Saturday, we'll pick one of the people out of the comments and I'll offer them a free session.
Yes. So what you have to do if you want to win an hour session with the Energetic Plumber, this is the most amazing experience. First of all, if you're not ready, don't win. You're just wasting Scott's time and yours. Okay.
I wouldn't quite say it that way, but the person that wins will probably be ready to experience it.
That's right. Because
what I decided for people to comment on, and you can either comment on my Instagram or on the bottom of this. What is your resource moment? So not essentially a meditative state, but if you want to think about a moment in your life that puts a smile on your face. When you close your eyes, go ahead, close your eyes.
Wait, who? Me?
Everybody, close your eyes.
Let's all close our eyes, okay?
What's your happy place? What goes in your mind? Is it a sunny day? Is it bouncing a ball? Is it swimming? What imagine you to be your happy place?
So that's the resource.
So that's called a resource moment or a resource state of being. And in somatic works, you can use that to counteract something that's going on in your body. So if you start to have a freak out or a trigger, as you were saying, try to bring in your resource moment and merge them together and let them connect and combine into something new. And a lot of times that diffuses that psychic kinetic energy that's putting you off balance.
Yeah, so for me, my example of a resource moment is snowboarding on fresh powder.
Ooh.
And feeling really calm and just like graceful, I guess is the word. And it's a very distinct feeling because I did it once. And so I always try to call back there, and it counteracts like anxiousness very well.
Yes.
I've noticed when you kind of merge them together, it just sort of dissipates.
And, mine, for example, would be the smell of lilacs in the springtime. Because that was what my home smelled like growing up. And I was very safe in my home and my yard. And we had lilac trees lining our yard. And so when I smell, that to me calms my nervous system, almost like lavender would from an essential oil. So my resource moments is the smell of lilacs from like my spring childhood.
Or envisioning the smell of lilacs because you're not actually smelling it.
Correct. I use my resource recall, and that's one of my resource moments. So whatever your happy place is or your resource moment, don't overshare, please. But just one or two words on what you think your resource moment is, and that way we'll get that out in the zeitgeist.
I think everybody is putting out some really good ones here. I'm looking at them and I am loving everything that people are writing. But listen, here's the deal. You want to win a session. It's an hour session. This is it's an amazing, amazing moment for you guys to move forward and push through to that portal of transformation we were talking about from 11/11. You want to sign up. You have to do a couple things. Okay. Go to scottclover.com, sign up for his newsletter. And I want you to like this broadcast. Okay. Share it to with your friends and comment on your resource moment. You have to do all those things. You like, comment, and share. This will give you 5 extra entries. Okay. And if you sign up for his newsletter, you get 1 entry. So, and then Scott at the end of the week. So next week's show, we're going to announce who it's going to be. So next week's lounge, right? Is that when you want to announce it, Scott? Oh, we lost Scott.
Yeah, I'll have you announce it next week on next week's lounge. Sure.
Okay.
But I'm having a sense that more people are taking advantage of this than I had initially realized. So I didn't know how sort of prolific this was going to happen. So let's just do 2 then. I'll pick 2 people.
Wow. Oh my God.
Wow. You just threw another one out there?
Well, yeah, I mean, come on, this isn't the carnival. I'm just saying it seems like it's resonating with people from what I can sense. So I'm happy to share my gifts with people, of course. As long as they're into it, if they bring themselves, I'll meet them more than halfway. So.
Can you say the website, which page has the newsletter sign up?
Oh, yeah, it's Scott Clover /contacts.
Okay, so if you go to the website, you see the contact, you click there, then sign up, name, and email address. Okay.
Yep.
Let me put that up as the banner. I could do that right now. Hold on a second. You guys talk. I'll get that up there.
So did anyone have any questions? I can't see.
Yeah, I
any
love
screens.
seeing the comments that pop up.
How do you see that?
Well, Marissa's rotating through that. There we go. That's where you sign up for the newsletter.
Yep. So you sign up for the newsletter there. Just go to scottclover.com, contact. And yeah, I'm just trying to put up a banner here. So, but yeah, so now we're not going to win a free. We're going to win two free.
Well, there'll be 2 separate people. It's not. Just so more people get the chance to experience it.
2.
Sure. Yeah.
2 people, just not 2 free. 2 people separately win 1 session.
That seems more appropriate. Yeah.
You guys, I didn't expect people are still commenting. Wow.
Great.
Oh my God.
That's so great.
Okay. So if you're not seeing it, guys, if you are not seeing it for some reason, the banner, I will post it once I'm off the live. I'll put it in the description of the video. Okay. And I'll post it in the comments, or Mike or Scott will go on and post them in the comments on the Facebook and YouTube feed. Okay. So awesome. We have another little surprise. I have to text for it. But if anyone has questions for Mike, the intuitive technologist, or me or Scott, please ask away. We have a couple minutes left. And we have our lovely, if you guys can guess this, you get 1 extra credit, 1 extra entry. What's going to happen at the end of the show for all you Loungenites? What usually happens? Do you guys know?
I actually don't know this.
I actually don't know this either.
Yeah. The person who knows this will get an extra entry. The person who remembers the lounge. What happens at the end? What happens at the end? Music? Well, no. In need of clarity, my grandchild. Okay, we'll see. We're gonna put on some piano music. Let's see if that helps. All right. So I did not expect so many people to want to have. I mean, people want to win here, Scott. So, I mean, people are loving you. I'm loving you. I'm like ready to keep going with you. You know what I mean? I'm ready. And you know I'm ready.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, you've done the work. You've done the work. Now it's time to buffer or polish.
That's right. You got to buffer or polish. So your book, can we talk about the book that you're going to be writing?
It's more of a concept now, but yeah, the concept is coming out intuitive, and it's about self-acceptance and how when you self-accept yourself and your own intuition, you embolden your self-esteem.
Yeah,
so healing energy comes from self-accepting. And for a lot of us empaths and a lot of us intuitives, it comes from no longer judging our intuitive abilities through the societal sort of down view that we get. I mean, I know people in my family, when I first started this, they used to call me, how's your psycho work going? Like, how silly and inappropriate and rude is that, right? So the more that us intuitives can bond together on that first chakra level of self-acceptance, down the line, the more we bond together in that first chakra sense, then we'll be more established, almost like the unions and how the unions actually changed the way corporations worked in the 20s through the 50s.
Yeah.
If we bond together as intuitives and say, I accept myself and I accept you as an intuitive without judging the other person's skill set, which is different than yours, then we're going to have enough momentum to be perceived of as a little more appropriate in our society and have a place. Whereas right now we are considered still a little bit on the fringes, if not very much on the fringes. Right. Not in our community, but on people outside looking in at us. So the more we glean our own self-worth and self-esteem and say, I'm intuitive and that means more to me than most other things in my life, then that will sort of let that light shine through other people and sort of, I like that expression that the tide rises all boats.
You know what? That's the second time I've heard that. Okay, you guys can come in. All right. Oh, yeah.
And I have a special guest.
Oh,
okay.
Yes, we have a special guest. Don't you guys remember? Yeah, you guys remember these gals always sign off the show. So, hi, Ming. How are you?
Good. And I've got a special guest.
This is Parvinder.
Parvinder.
Yeah.
Hi, Carpenter. Hi, Maine.
Carpenter. Hi. Yes, Ming. Everybody knows Ming. All right. So you guys remember what your job is to read the people's names and to say bye. Okay. Right?
Colin, Lori, Blummy, Blum, 13, Ann, Nober. You could say some.
Okay. Yeah, you want to say some names, Parvinder?
Christine Mihaklik, Dorenzo.
And then say bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Jackie Bellicasis. Bye, whoever you are.
All right, let's take a couple more.
Okay.
Who else?
How about Jennifer Lee? Bye.
Yeah, that was an easy one to read.
Yeah. Margaret Roachford.
And what else do you guys? Who else?
Okay. Blummy
Blum, 13. Yeah.
Hi.
What about this one here?
That one?
Yeah.
Christina Mercado?
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.
We'll see you next week.
Is what?
Pravinder.
Pravinder's parents watching?
We don't know, but they're having a sleepover. So
Nice.
We have a house full of kids, and
that sounds fun.
You
Thanks
know,
so much for having us.
Absolutely. Okay, you guys could go. See you later. All right. So they love signing people off at the end of the night. So thank you guys for coming. And
thanks for having me.
and Mike, I actually don't think this is the first time you're going to be on the lounge this year. That's my prediction. I think you guys are coming back. Who knows what's going to happen? Mike, I see you more on the show. Scott,
Okay.
we're going to probably be having a round robin here saying, oh, we're just going to keep coming back. You know what I mean? I really, yeah, loved it.
Yeah. And it's interesting because you do those weekly energy forecasts and the monthly energy forecast. And I notice when I do my client work that I'll repeat a very similar frequency or pattern to the client, to several clients within 1 week, meaning it's happening to more than just the individual. It's happening on like a global scale. Whether that means it's a week for self-esteem, or it's a week for purging, or it's a week for emboldening your chakras, or cleaning off the backs of your chakras, which is essentially other people's energies. I see those patterns happening to people on a weekly or monthly basis as well. So I find it interesting to listen to yours because I put that in my Rolodex for what I'm working on at the same time. So.
Oh, that's awesome. And Mike makes the calendar. So Mike, you're going to have to make the calendar for us soon. And I think that'll be a new step that we're going to be taking in this, in this new era here, because people need that calendar. So do you guys see the scottclover.com/contact in the comments? I just put it up there.
I'm not on the Facebook page, so I can't see that.
Oh, okay.
But
if you guys are seeing that, it is there. And also, you guys, monthly energy forecast. If you're not on my email list, you will not get the monthly energy forecast. It's on a private link. Only the people that are on my email list is free, but you have to get on before the 15th of the month. I go over every day of the month. And of course, that intuitive development waitlist course. It's coming out soon. You don't want to miss it. We're going to have some specials and promotions for the people that come on the early bird promotion, and all the links are there in my in the chat. And all of these links that we talked about on the show, they're going to be in the description of the show as well. So we'll see you guys next week. And you guys, it was such an amazing kickoff show, bringing the lounge back for season 2. So thank you, Mike, the intuitive technologist. Thank you, Scott, intuitive energy healer. We were supposed to end at an hour. And of course, because you guys are so awesome, it's an hour and 15. Hope you guys didn't mind staying an extra 15 minutes.
I'm happy.
It's fun.
Awesome. Bye, everybody.
I'm looking forward to reading people's resource moments.
Me too. All right. We'll see you soon.
Okay.
Bye,
cheers.
everybody.